Hello everyone and welcome to another art lesson with UdoCreatives. Today, we will be discussing how to represent skin tones using charcoal and graphite. If you find this video helpful, please like and subscribe to UdoCreatives for more art content. Now for this particular tutorial, as opposed to drawing a subject, we will go over different methods of representing the diverse skin colors that we have on planet Earth. So when it comes to drawing different skin tones and colors, there are certain things that you must understand about pencil drawings. Now, my pencil drawings are usually black and white. Monochrome. The whole concept of pencil realism is to create a monochromatic or achromatic artwork, unlike painting and other forms of art that deal with colors. Now, when it comes to monochromatic images, there is an element known as tonal gradation or grayscale. A tonal gradation is defined as value steps going from light to dark. It represents the transition from one shade to another. When it comes to monochromatic pencil drawings, we consider different shades of gray. When you look at a black and white picture, you can easily identify the dark areas, the light areas, and the mid areas. Now the reason why this is so important is because I've been thinking about how best to explain skin tones. And I figured that drawing a subject won't effectively communicate this, as you might focus more on the subject than the explanation. I want to make sure you understand the basis of how to pick the right materials to shade different colors of skin. I'm so excited to share my technique and concept with you all. Now back to tonal gradation. In layman terms, tonal gradation simply indicates transitions between the light areas to the dark areas. Tonal gradation also indicates the absence of light. That is, starting from an area that is purely white and then gradually increasing the depth of our gray until our light becomes a complete shadow. If you look closely at grayscale images, you will see that at least one shade out of these shades of gray will be represented. For a realism artist, the ability to understand tonal gradation is super important. Let us go over some examples. If I want to draw a pale-skinned person, for example, I wouldn't use black compressed charcoal because it obviously does not match. I would instead start by using an extremely light gray compressed charcoal and gradually go darker if needed. Now if I want to draw a light-skinned person, I can start by using a mid-gray tone and layer it gradually with darker tones, depending on the exposure of my reference image. In the same way, when it comes to drawing a darker-skinned person, I mostly start with a dark mid-gray, because the person's skin is darker. Knowledge of skin tones overlap with knowledge of photography. When it comes to understanding monochromatic images, you have to dive into photography a bit and understand grayscale. One action I take at the start of drawing an achromatic piece is to study my reference, and then circle the areas where you find corresponding tones. Based on these circled tones, I then correspond them to my grayscale charcoal shades. Remember that aside from looking at the overall skin tone of the reference, you also have to pay close attention to the highlights, lowlights and shadows. These will all need to be considered when translating your tones to gray. This set I have here is called the Jakar Compressed Charcoal Set. I use it because it already has different tones represented for me and you can easily find it online. If you don't have this set, you can still improvise. You can use charcoal pencils. What you can do is get a piece of paper, safely use a blade to scrape some of the pencil lead into the paper. For kids watching this, please do not handle blades without an adult present. That was a black charcoal pencil. You can do the same with a white charcoal pencil. Now that we have white and black represented, the next question is, how do we get the tones in between? This is where my bristle brush comes in. The bristle brush is basically a hard brush, but with a slightly different texture. Using my bristle brush, I do what is called mixing. So I mix the two mediums together. To get different tones, you can increase the amount of white of black in the mixture until you are satisfied. Notice how it looks now when I apply it on paper versus when I apply black. So do not panic if you do not have the compressed charcoal set. Learning to improvise is also part of your artistic journey. Also, the same way I mixed pencils, you can also do that with your compressed charcoal set if you need more subtle tones. Like I mentioned earlier, studying your reference and finding areas with matching tones are very important. One way to do this is to label all the matching tones with the same letter of the alphabet. For example, you can set your lightest areas to be marked as circle A, then the next lightest as B, up until you get to your darkest circle. Then in a different area, write down the alphabets and shade the tone represented by it next to it, almost like your own custom color wheel, but for your own reference. Personally, I would say that this is the tutorial that you should watch first before watching any of the other pencil drawing tutorial videos on this page, because this is the wisdom of how I set the right tones for shading. I really hope that you have been able to learn one or two things from this particular section. So, with the knowledge that I've shared with you, I would suggest that you practice translating tones to grayscale. To begin, you can download images that have different races of people represented, and then take each person as one color in your color wheel. After this, you can now move on to trying to represent the highlights or shadows on each person in the picture to expand your wheel, and then keep going until you understand the concepts of representing not just the skin, but its interaction with light. Now we have come to the end of this discussion. I hope you found this lesson insightful and a good help in your journey as a pencil artist. Remember to experiment and practice to get a better command of your skills and tools. I hope that you've gained insightful techniques in this tutorial, and I hope to see you use these techniques in your drawings. Thank you very much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to UdoCreatives for more art content.